Every single day, an invisible war is waged inside your head. On one side stands your potential, the vivid blueprint of the person you know you were born to become, the goals you want to achieve, and the legacy you want to leave behind. On the other side stands the master of mediocrity, your immediate comfort. It is the quiet, seductive voice that whispers, "Just hit snooze. You can start tomorrow. Nobody will know if you take a break today." Every time you negotiate with that voice, you aren't just delaying your success, you are actively training your mind to fail. Success is not an accident. It is not a lottery ticket handed out to a lucky few. Success is a direct consequence of a disciplined mind. Your mind is the ultimate operating system, but most people let it run on autopilot, completely codependent on their moods. They treat their feelings like a dictator. If they feel energized, they work. If they feel anxious or tired, they quit. But the amateur works when they feel like it. The professional works regardless of the feeling. If your life's work depends on something as volatile and unpredictable as a good mood, you will spend your entire life starting and stopping. You must build an impenetrable firewall between what you know needs to be done and how you feel about doing it. This strength is not something you are born with. Your mindset is a muscle. If you want a physical muscle to grow, you don't sit on the couch wishing for it. You step up to the heavy weights and you introduce resistance. Mental discipline works the exact same way. Every time you throw off the covers when your body begs for sleep, you complete a psychological repetition. Every time you put your phone away to focus on deep, demanding work, you strengthen the fiber of your resolve. You cannot build an elite mindset in an environment of total convenience. We live in a world engineered to eliminate friction, but convenience is the greatest fertilizer for mediocrity. The scarcity of high achievement exists precisely because the price of admission is a mountain of highly inconvenient, demanding, and exhausting work. When you choose the easy road, you pay for it with your future capability. You must learn to look at friction not as an obstacle, but as a filter that weeds out the rest of the world. To sustain this level of execution, you must stop focusing entirely on external trophies and start changing who you believe you are. Shift to identity-driven standards. Stop telling yourself you are trying to be disciplined. Decide that discipline is your core identity. An elite performer doesn't sit in bed debating whether or not they should execute. They execute because that is simply who they are. Raise your baseline standards until compromise is no longer an option you are physically capable of choosing. When all is said and done, the grandest battle you will ever fight is not against the economy, your competitors, or the critics who doubt your potential. The ultimate war is fought within the 6 inches between your ears. You can have the best strategies, the most brilliant ideas, and a world of opportunity right in front of you. But if your mind is chaotic, soft, and ruled by convenience, you will remain a bystander in your own life. The stage is set, the parameters are clear, and the responsibility rests entirely on your shoulders. Nobody is coming to discipline your mind for you. Nobody else can do the heavy lifting of your execution. Overthrow your excuses, master your focus, and step into the arena. Discipline your mind today. Dominate your execution tomorrow and claim the success you were born to achieve. One of the most destructive myths in our culture is the idea that great achievers are simply born different. We look at individuals who possess unshakable focus, relentless drive, and an almost superhuman level of discipline, and we chalk it up to genetics. We tell ourselves they just have a naturally strong mindset, or they were born with that kind of willpower. We use this assumption as a psychological cushion to justify our own stagnation. It allows us to believe that because we struggle with procrastination, self-doubt, or distraction, we are simply missing the discipline gene. But science and psychology have proven that this is a complete falsehood. Your mindset is not a fixed genetic trait set in stone at birth. It is not a permanent state of being. Your mindset is a muscle. Think about how physical muscle operates. If you want to build a powerful chest, strong arms, or immense physical endurance, you do not sit on the couch wishing for it. You do not look at a set of heavy weights and expect your body to transform through wishful thinking. You have to go to the gym, step up to the weights, and deliberately introduce resistance. You have to push the muscle to its absolute limit, tearing the microscopic fibers down through intense effort. It is only in the recovery from that resistance, in the healing of those tiny tears, that the muscle grows back thicker, denser, and stronger than it was before. Mental discipline works in the exact same way. Every single time you experience a conflict between what you know you should do and what you feel like doing, you are standing in front of a mental weight rack. When your alarm goes off early in the morning and every fiber of your being begs you to stay under the warm covers, hitting snooze is the equivalent of dropping the weight because it's too heavy. But when you actively force yourself to throw off the covers and stand up, despite the discomfort, you just completed a psychological repetition. You put stress on the mental muscle of discipline. When you are sitting at your desk and the urge to open a new tab, check social media, or distract yourself hits you, and you consciously choose to redirect your focus back to the deep work, that is another repetition. The problem is that most people expect their minds to be strong without ever training them. They avoid discomfort, dodge resistance, and flee from any situation that requires emotional or mental strain, and then they wonder why their willpower collapses the moment life gets difficult. You cannot build an elite mindset in an environment of total convenience. If you only ever do what is easy, your mental muscle will atrophy. It will become weak, flabby, and completely incapable of handling the heavy lifting that high achievement requires. Building a disciplined mind means you must start looking at discomfort not as a signal to stop, but as a sign that the muscle is being forced to grow. Welcome the resistance. When a task feels frustrating, when your brain feels tired, or when you are staring down a challenge that scares, you recognize that moment as your mental training ground. That is where the growth happens. You don't need a massive breakthrough to start. You just need to start winning the micro battles of the day. Do one more rep. Work for 10 more minutes. Say no to one more distraction. Treat every choice as an opportunity to strengthen the fiber of your resolve. If you train your focus with the same consistency and intensity that an athlete trains their body, your mindset will inevitably transform. What feels agonizingly difficult today will become your effortless baseline tomorrow. Stop waiting for discipline to magically appear. Step up to the weight of the moment and build it. The greatest illusion holding most people back from achieving their highest potential is the belief that action must be preceded by the right emotion. We live in a culture that worships feelings. We are told to follow our passion, to wait for inspiration to strike, and to listen to our inner state before making a move. As a result, we have become entirely codependent on our moods. We look at our goals, our schedules, and our obligations through the volatile lens of how we happen to feel in any given hour. If we wake up feeling energized, enthusiastic, and confident, we attack our work. But if we wake up feeling tired, anxious, doubtful, or uninspired, we put our dreams on hold. This is the tyranny of mood. It is a form of emotional dictatorship that keeps ordinary people trapped in a perpetual cycle of inconsistency. When you allow your mood to dictate your execution, you are effectively giving a temporary chemical state total control over your permanent destiny. Let's be completely honest about what a mood actually is. It is a highly unstable, fleeting cocktail of hormones, sleep quality, blood sugar levels, and external triggers. A cloud blocks the sun, a stranger cuts you off in traffic, or you have a poor night's rest, and suddenly your mood plummets. If your life's work depends on something as fragile and unpredictable as a good mood, you will never build anything of lasting significance. You will spend your entire life starting and stopping, waiting for a perfect emotional alignment that rarely arrives. High achievers do not operate this way. They have learned to completely decouple their actions from their emotions. They understand that motivation is a fair weather friend. It shows up when things are easy and vanishes the moment the terrain gets rough. If you want to achieve elite levels of success, you must build an impenetrable firewall between what you know needs to be done and how you feel about doing it. You must move past the amateur mindset of needing to feel ready or inspired before you step onto the field. The amateur works when they feel like it. The professional works regardless of the feeling. To break free from the tyranny of mood, you must adopt a rule of absolute non-negotiation. When an obligation is set, whether it is writing a chapter, analyzing data, making a sales call, or stepping into the gym, the decision-making process must be entirely over before the day even begins. When the moment of execution arrives, your feelings are completely irrelevant to the equation. It does not matter if you are tired. It does not matter if you are bored. It does not matter if you are gripped by a temporary wave of imposter syndrome. You execute the assignment simply because you gave your word to the vision. Furthermore, you must realize a profound psychological truth. Action drives emotion far more effectively than emotion drives action. The amateur sits on the couch waiting for motivation to strike so they can finally move. The disciplined mind starts moving, knowing that the motion itself will generate the motivation. When you force your body into action despite a bad mood, your physiology shifts. Your heart rate rises, your focus sharpens, and your brain begins to release the very chemicals you were waiting for in the first place. You do not need to feel good to start. You need to start so that you can feel good. Stop being a hostage to your emotional whims. The next time you find yourself hesitating, making excuses, or pushing a task to tomorrow because you just don't feel it today, recognize that moment for what it is, a test of your autonomy. Overthrow the dictatorship of your current mood, put your head down, and let your standards, not your feelings, dictate your behavior. We like to think of success as a series of grand, dramatic breakthroughs. We wait for the monumental milestones. The day we sign the massive contract, the day we launch the product, the day we hit the major financial goal, or the day we step onto the stage to accept the applause. We focus our attention entirely on these macro moments, believing that greatness is forged in the spotlight during the biggest events of our lives. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding of how human achievement is constructed. Greatness is not a sudden explosion. It is an accumulation. It is the compounding interest of thousands of tiny, seemingly insignificant choices made throughout the day when no one else is watching. Success is won or lost in the micro moments. A micro moment is that brief, split-second window of time where you are faced with a choice to either lean into your standards or give in to your comfort. It is the 5 seconds after your alarm goes off. It is the moment your phone buzzes with a notification while you are in the middle of deep work. It is the decision to take one more bite of food you know you shouldn't eat, or the choice to write just one more paragraph when your fingers are tired. On their own, none of these individual choices will make or break your life. If you hit snooze today, your life doesn't fall apart tomorrow. If you check your phone instead of working for 10 minutes, your business doesn't instantly go bankrupt. Because the immediate consequences of these tiny choices are invisible, we trick ourselves into believing they don't matter. We tell ourselves, it's just this once, or it's only a small deviation. But this is the exact loophole where mediocrity takes root. Every single micro moment is an internal vote for the type of person you are becoming. When you win a micro moment, when you look at the distraction and choose to put it away, when you feel the urge to quit and choose to push through for 5 more minutes, you are reinforcing an internal identity of discipline. You are building a psychological momentum that carries into the next hour, the next day, and the next month. Conversely, when you lose a micro moment, you aren't just wasting time, you are actively training your brain to tolerate compromise. You are lowering your baseline standards, making it slightly easier to quit the next time things get difficult. The danger of ignoring the micro moments is that they compound quietly. Just as a single penny doubled every day eventually turns into millions, a single lazy choice repeated dozens of times a day eventually turns into a failed career, a broken body, or a stagnant mind. You do not wake up one day suddenly ruined, you slowly drift there through 1,000 micro concessions. Likewise, you do not wake up one day suddenly elite. You build that reality brick by brick, choice by choice. Mastering these moments requires you to bring radical awareness to your day. You must stop living on autopilot. When you feel that slight internal friction, the hesitation before starting a tough task, the temptation to take a shortcut, the urge to complain, you must learn to pause. Recognize that friction not as an annoyance, but as a critical pivot point. Say to yourself in that exact second, this is the moment where the separation happens. Shift your focus away from the mountain you have to climb over the next year and focus entirely on dominating the next 60 seconds. Win the moment right in front of you. Build a wall of disciplined choices so tight and unyielding that laziness has no room to breathe. When you master the micro moments, the macro success takes care of itself. We live in a world defined by absolute, unadulterated chaos. At any given moment, the external environment is swirling with variables completely outside of your control. The economy fluctuates, markets shift, global events disrupt entire industries, algorithms change, and the people around you will act in unpredictable, sometimes unfair ways. If you condition your mental stability and your professional execution on the world being calm, organized, and cooperative, you will spend your entire life in a state of chronic anxiety and paralysis. The elite understand a fundamental truth of the human condition. You cannot control the wind, but you have absolute, sovereign authority over the set of your sail. To achieve lasting success, you must learn to impose internal order on external chaos. Internal order is the process of building a psychological fortress that remains completely unbothered by the storms raging outside. Most people allow their internal state to be a direct reflection of their external surroundings. If their office is messy, their mind is messy. If the news is negative, their attitude is negative. If someone treats them poorly, their whole day is ruined. They are living as a thermometer, merely reacting to the temperature of the room. A disciplined mind must function as a thermostat, actively setting the temperature regardless of how cold or chaotic the environment becomes. To impose internal order, you must first master the gatekeeper of your consciousness, your focus. Your mind is a highly sensitive piece of machinery, and whatever you feed it will determine its output. If you begin your day by immediately consuming the chaos of the world, scrolling through catastrophic headlines, drowning in social media validation metrics, or reacting to a barrage of urgent but unimportant emails, you are actively inviting disorder into your mind. You are handing over your focus to the highest bidder. Imposing order means you intentionally construct strict boundaries around your mental space. It means creating daily rituals, morning routines, and blocks of deep, uninterrupted focus where the outside world is completely shut out. It means deciding in advance what data is allowed to enter your mind and what data is filtered out as useless noise. When you control your focus, you control your perception. And when you control your perception, you control your emotional reality. The second component of internal order is emotional governance. When unexpected challenges strike, when a deal falls through, a key team member quits, or a crisis hits your project, the natural human reaction is psychological panic. Your primitive brain wants to sound the alarm, trigger a stress response, and look for someone to blame. Internal order is the ability to hit the pause button between the stimulus and your response. It is the discipline to look at a chaotic situation and say, this is a problem to be solved, not a tragedy to be mourned. It is the capacity to remain cool, analytical, and calculated when everyone around you is losing their heads. This internal structure is what allows for flawless execution. When your mind is cluttered with worry, doubt, and external distractions, your energy is scattered in 1,000 different directions. You are working hard, but you are spinning your wheels. But when you clear the wreckage of the outside world from your mental landscape, your energy becomes a laser beam. You can channel 100% of your cognitive capacity into the single task right in front of you. Stop asking the world to be less chaotic. The world has been unpredictable since the dawn of time, and it isn't going to change for you. Instead, look inward. Clear the clutter out of your mind, anchor yourself to your standards, and establish an unshakable sense of internal clarity. When you possess total order on the inside, there is no amount of chaos on the outside that can stop your momentum. We live in the golden age of convenience. With a single tap on a screen, we can have food delivered to our doorstep, stream endless entertainment, or buy products that arrive within hours. Modern society is explicitly engineered to eliminate friction, reduce effort, and make comfort the default setting of human existence. We are taught to view convenience as the ultimate metric of progress. However, there is a dark, invisible ledger to this hyper-convenient lifestyle. While convenience makes life easier in the short term, it extracts a devastating price from your long-term success, your character, and your personal development. The truth is simple: convenience is the greatest fertilizer for mediocrity. When you look at the mechanics of human growth, you realize that everything of true value requires a certain amount of friction. To build an elite business, to master a complex skill, to sculpt a resilient body, or to cultivate a deep relationship requires struggle, patience, and sustained effort. These things are inherently inconvenient, but when your brain becomes deeply conditioned to instant gratification, when it learns that every desire can be satisfied with zero personal exertion, it loses its capacity to tolerate the very friction required to build something great. You trade your permanent potential for temporary comfort. Think about how this conditioning actively sabotages your goals. The moment a project gets difficult, the moment a skill becomes frustrating to learn, or the moment a workout begins to burn, your convenience, addicted brain flags that friction as a threat. It screams at you to retreat to what is comfortable. It whispers, "Why are you struggling with this? Go check your phone. Go watch a video. Go find an easier path." Because you haven't trained your mind to sit with discomfort, you cave. You abandon the hard, deep work in favor of the cheap, easy escape. Every time you choose the convenient option over the necessary one, you are paying for that choice with your future capability. Choosing to sleep in instead of waking up to build your dream is convenient, but the cost is a lifetime of unfulfilled potential. Choosing to avoid a difficult conversation with a partner or business associate is convenient, but the cost is a fractured relationship or a toxic work culture. Choosing to pass on a challenging opportunity because it requires too much travel or too many hours is convenient, but the cost is staying exactly where you are for the next 5 years. You must realize that the path of least resistance always leads to the lowest common denominator. If a goal is easy and convenient to achieve, then everyone would achieve it and it would hold absolutely no value. The scarcity of high achievement exists precisely because the cost of admission is a mountain of highly inconvenient, stressful, and demanding work. If you want what ordinary people don't have, you must be willing to do what ordinary people refuse to do. You have to actively reject the pull of the comfortable choice. To break free from this trap, you must change your relationship with friction. Stop viewing an inconvenient task as an obstacle and start viewing it as a filter. Recognize that the sheer difficulty of the task is the very mechanism that will weed out your competition. When the work gets tedious, when the hours get long, and when the process demands everything you have, say to yourself, this is where the separation happens. This is the price of entry. Decouple your lifestyle from the need for constant comfort. Intentionally seek out the harder path when it serves your higher purpose. Walk away from the easy escapes, embrace the grueling reality of deep execution, and understand that true, lasting success is never discounted. Pay the price of discipline today, or you will pay the far heavier cost of regret for the rest of your life. Most people approach the concept of personal change entirely backward. When they decide they want to improve their lives, they focus exclusively on outcomes. They say, I want to make $1 million, I want to build a world-class business, or I want to lose 50 pounds. Once they establish these outcomes, they look at the behaviors required to get there, forcing themselves to adopt new habits through sheer, exhausting willpower. They treat discipline as an external chore, something they have to force themselves to do every single day. But trying to change your actions without changing who you believe you are is a recipe for permanent self-sabotage. To build discipline that lasts, you must shift your focus from what you want to achieve to who you wish to become. You must transition to identity-driven standards. Your behavior is a direct, undeniable reflection of your internal identity. The human psyche possesses a deep, instinctive need to remain entirely consistent with its own self-image. We will do whatever it takes to stay aligned with the story we believe about ourselves, even if that story is limiting or destructive. If you view yourself as a lazy person who is trying to be disciplined, you are constantly fighting an uphill battle against your own brain. Every morning you wake up early, and every time you sit down to do deep work, you feel like an imposter. You are forcing a behavior that contradicts your core identity, and eventually your willpower will run out, and you will default right back to your old baseline. True transformation happens when discipline shifts from a task you perform to an identity you embody. It is the profound difference between a person who says, I am trying to build a business, and a person who says, I am a builder. It is the difference between saying, I am trying to wake up early, and I am an elite performer. When you shift your identity, your standards change automatically. A standard is not a goal. A goal is something you hope to achieve in the future, while a standard is a non-negotiable floor for your behavior right now. It is the absolute minimum you are willing to tolerate from yourself. Ordinary people live by their goals, which fluctuate based on their mood and motivation. Elite individuals live by their standards, which remain completely unyielding regardless of external circumstances. When discipline becomes identity-driven, the friction of execution vanishes. An elite athlete doesn't sit in bed for an hour debating whether or not they should train. They train because that is what an athlete does. A world-class writer doesn't wait for inspiration to strike before hitting the keyboard. They write because writing is who they are. The action becomes automated because to do anything less would violate their internal identity. They don't need a massive burst of outside motivation to do the work, because the work is a natural extension of their character. To build identity-driven standards, you must start acting your way into a new identity. Your brain does not believe empty affirmations or vague wishes. It believes hard evidence. Every single time you make a choice that aligns with your highest standards, you are casting a vote for that new identity. Every time you show up when you're tired, every time you protect your focus from cheap distractions, and every time you execute on a promise you made to yourself, you are providing your mind with the receipts it needs to update your script. Stop focusing entirely on the external trophies of success. Focus on the internal architecture of your character. Raise your baseline standards until mediocrity is no longer an option you are physically capable of choosing. Decide today who you are going to be. Establish the non-negotiable standards of that identity and let your daily execution become the undeniable proof of who you are.